Jack, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So this morning I Googled your name and went onto Wikipedia and I read you have won 33 medals. Did you know that?
It's news to me. I've no idea how many I've got. I really don't. I should count, definitely should count, but I don't know. It doesn't sound too far off.
Well, that's a good sign, I think.
I don't know who's tracking, but
racking them up.
Yeah, definitely. Numbers still growing. That's all that matters.
Yes, exactly. Well, I've got in my hand right now an Olympic gold medal. I tell you what, it's heavy as well.
Yeah, half a kilo.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, half a kilo. They were the heaviest. They are the heaviest medals ever.
Really?
Yeah, for Olympic Games anyway.
I don't think you'd want this on your neck for too long.
Yeah, try having two.
Oh, yes. What a line. That's awesome. They're really impressive. I mean, you'd hope that an Olympic medal would be heavy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't disappoint, does it, in that respect?
Yeah, you'd want something substantial, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want like a sports day plastic medal, do you, really?
No,
You want something to commemorate it properly.
And when all the athletes are biting into it as well, you don't want like bite marks in it, do you, I suppose?
No. You'd chip your teeth on that.
You certainly would. What about all your other medals? I imagine they get slightly forgotten, do they?
Oh, yeah. Just racking up dust. No, they're pride of place. They are pride of place. I've got a lovely display at home. The Olympic medal's been obviously the centre focus. I don't know if you saw, I went on the Repair Shop, the BBC programme.
Yes.
And got my Olympic medals touched up. So first ever Olympics in South America. No offence to the Brazilians at all. The quality of the medals wasn't the best quality. So the lacquer on the outside of them actually started to deteriorate.
Did it?
So, yeah.
How disappointing for an Olympic medal.
A little bit, yeah. And a few athletes had the problem, and more so, not bragging, more so with people with two, because they hit off each other and it just caused scratches and stuff. So,
what a problem.
It's a great problem to have. It really is, yeah.
My 2 Olympic medals are rubbing.
Yeah, it's like a proper show off. But so I got them fixed up, and they're centre stage in the middle, and then I've got a rack either side with international ones on one side and national ones on the other. So
have you? So at home on the wall, you
Yeah.
have all your national ones lined up, and then all your international ones lined up.
Yeah,
Wow.
with the Olympic certificates above them as well. Because the forgotten thing is, well, it's not really forgotten, but it's unknown, is that when you get the Olympic medal, you also get a beautiful certificate as well, and it's like got the colour of your medal is running through the certificate, so it's actually a beautiful piece.
Really?
Yeah. So I get them framed and
what gold
through it. Yeah, gold leaf through the
Really?
actual thing. So yeah, it's got kind of the you see on the medal there. There's the lines and stuff, all the wavy lines. They kind of run through through the certificate. So and that's a really nice. Obviously, the Olympic medal is the best, but that's actually quite a nice little hidden touch that you get.
Yes, I never knew that.
Yeah, and in the box as well, you get a little pin badge as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the colour of your medal as well. So
What do you feel about wearing your pin badge?
At the start, I wore it, and then I was kind of like, I don't want to lose it, first of all, because I'm a very forgetful person.
Yeah.
And also, I was like, I don't know. And especially when you've got two, again, once you've got two, a gold and a silver, you obviously want to wear the gold one, but I feel bad for the other one as well. I'm pretty proud of that one too. I'm very proud of the silver, just to be honest, yeah. And the bronze as well.
I feel like you're going to run out of lapel space as well.
That's the other issue, yeah. I could start wearing as like,
Yeah, exactly.
wear one as a tie clip.
You need like a big lapel, I think. Like,
Yeah, get my ears pierced.
Yeah, exactly. What do you feel about this medal when you hold it, or any of the medals? Like, what are you thinking and feeling when it's in your hands, or you see it on your wall? I mean, I know when something's on your wall, it ends up being, well, excuse the pun, wallpaper, doesn't it? You often stop looking at it.
Yeah.
But you must have moments where you look at this and what does it represent to you?
I don't like to do it too often, but that's like that's why I've been doing this for 20 odd years, whatever it is now. Would it be 21 years of diving? That's what I've been working towards. And they all 3 Olympic medals mean something completely different, because the gold was the first competition we did in Rio. It was my first Olympic event after London, when I did terribly in London. So I was super nervous coming into that event, and I was doing synchro with my best friend, and we won. That's the first ever British gold medal in diving in Olympic history.
Good.
So history maker, when you're 21 years old, because of that, we got an MBE, all these crazy things that happen of it. Obviously, all those happy memories are attached to it. But the silver, after winning the gold, I kind of dropped off the side of the world. I was kind of like, well, what do I do now?
Exactly. Where do you go from an Olympic gold?
And 5 days later, I had to go and compete in the individual. And that was where I got the silver. And I barely scraped through to the final, had an absolute shocking semi-final, barely scraped through. So that one was kind of overcoming a little bit of adversity within myself of just like reaching the highest of highs and then having to get back on the horse and do it again.
5 days later.
5 days later, after doing a terrible semi-final in the morning to then go to the final and come second. And only by I dropped one of my dives slightly. Without that, I would have won again. So like huge achievement, super happy. And then the bronze, mental health in a bit of a terrible place and overcoming adversity in that way. It wasn't just like, it wasn't like what it was in Rio. It was more overcoming my own struggles to get onto that podium and do a good performance to back it up as well. So all three of them have different stories behind them, and obviously the gold is the most impressive, but for me, actually the one that means the most to me as a person is probably the bronze.
Is it?
Yeah, just because of how hard it was to get there.
You know what you've had to go through as an individual to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and where you were at. And
yeah, that's the most important. So overcoming those issues, there was, getting the gold with Chris. I was diving alongside my best friend. I felt really comfortable. I was doing 4 dives that I felt really comfortable doing as well. It was just really good fun. I was just really happy that I did really well because London was terrible. Whereas Tokyo, I was absolutely in the mud, ready to kind of give up. And I managed to actually sail through just about and do my job and do what I love. And obviously I've made myself extremely proud. So yeah, they all mean something different, but
I love that. That's nice though, isn't it? Like each one having a individual story in your mind attached to it.
Yeah.
There's the row of medals in front of you at home, but actually each one is a memory. It's a part of your life.
Yeah.
You're in certain frames of mind. Yeah.
And it's great because it's each one celebrates something different throughout my life, and you only get a medal if you do well, right? There's plenty of events where I haven't got medals, and I remember them as well. Like yesterday, but
even more, I bet.
Even more, yeah. And that's what obviously you've spoken to athletes in the past, and that's the thing that drives you. My coach always used to say, you learn very little from the good days, and you learn the most from the bad ones. But the good days and those medals, being able to have those as timestamps in my life is such a wonderful thing. You don't really get that in everyday life as a regular person going about your job. I've got a very unique job, and I'm able to actually have these amazing, good-looking timestamps on my wall that I can be really proud of, which is really nice. And I felt amazing through my career for a lot of it, and I felt really bad through other parts. And those different medals all showcase a different part of me, and that's something lovely to have.
Absolutely. Well, just to reiterate that, I mean, when you were walking through the office and you arrived here today, and people knowing that you were coming in and an Olympic gold medal as an average person, you're not going to see one of them, and certainly not feel, touch, meet someone who's got one. It's quite a remarkable thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is obviously quite rare.
Yes. Yeah.
To me, it's just normal, right?
Yeah.
But it is something that I never really thought I could do.
Really?
Always believed I could, but never thought I could. I know it's hard to actually separate those two, but always knew I had it in me. I was capable of doing it, but actually standing there and getting the job done is another thing. You might have all the ability in the world, but on the day, at the end of it, I get 6 dives, and if they don't go well, if one goes slightly wrong, that's it. You're done.
You know what? That's so fast. Let's pick that apart a little bit. So, did you always felt in your heart of hearts that I could do this? Like you're comparing with peers or people you've dived with before, and as you're going through your diving career, you're starting to get an impression, you know what? I think I could reach the top here.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
Yeah. I knew I was very good from a young age. I knew that I was good. I was winning a lot of competitions, and I was progressing at an accelerated rate in comparison to peers of my own age. And I was able to do skills that other people of my age weren't able to do, and I was able to do them better than the other people doing the easier skills. So not only in diving, when things are judged by the judges out of 10, you're also given a degree of difficulty for how hard the skill is, which is multiplied together to create your overall score. So not only am I doing the dives better out of 10, but I'm also doing harder dives. So I'm getting, double the amount of points. Not quite, but, more. And that was from quite a young age as well.
I bet you were one of those kids, weren't you? I've got 2 kids, 2 young kids. I bet you were one of those kids that was almost running by 6, 7, 8 months, jumping over things, climbing up things.
Yeah. Mum and Dad, 9 months when I was walking.
9 months,
9 months walking, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was, obviously, that doesn't mean you're going to come
Of course,
But yeah, and I've always, especially when I was younger, I found it very naturally easy. And I think it probably might have rubbed people the wrong way because I didn't really try that hard when I was a kid. It just was very natural. And then when I started thinking, right, this could be it, obviously I turned that into a hard work ethic.
Yes, well, that's the point, isn't it? So talent isn't enough, is it, on its own?
No, and
Full
my
stop,
coach told me
it's not
that.
enough. Yeah.
He told me that when I was maybe 12.
Really? Is that the first time you heard that message?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation where we were stood in the pool in Harrogate, and he said to me, and it was a grassroots pool. I wasn't talent identified. I just started the lessons, and I remember him saying, it's all well and good what you're doing now, but if you want to become the best, it's not enough. Yeah, you need to do more. And at that, not that exact point, but when you start winning more competitions and you start understanding that, oh yeah, this could be it.
For you to remember that memory so clearly and that conversation, you must have had an emotion connected to that. For it to be in your mind, sitting, you remember where you were, what and all the surroundings so many years ago. Why do you think that was?
I don't know. Maybe a bit of a wake up call in a way. Someone actually is not just coaching you on the regular; they actually take you and sit you down properly, and they're like, "Look, this could be the real deal." And when you hear that for the first time, obviously, I think that probably triggers something. I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean. I had an easy time of it, and it's not actually until the past couple, maybe 4 or 5 years, that I've had a rocky time of it. And it's all well and good when you're winning. Everyone is obviously happy, but when things start going wrong and then you start doubting yourself, that's when it can become very difficult. So yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to we'll talk about that tough time if we can, Jack. I'll come back to that.
Of course.
The diving, I feel like from an outsider, it is a very individual sport, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You're not in a team. I mean, you've got a team clearly around you, but once you start walking up those ladders, up to the platform, you're on your own, aren't you?
Yeah.
Just give us a little bit of insight, if you can, as to once you're climbing up those steps, and you've got this dive, maybe it is for a medal at that point, what is going through your head? What are the thoughts? What's the battle going on?
Yeah, I mean, the battle really, for me, has always been to not get ahead of myself, not start imagining what it's going to be like once this goes in well. It's about routine and keeping things the same. I have a big problem of when things are going well. I'm like, this is actually going pretty well. I wonder what I'm going to do. Like, what celebration am I going to do when I win that gold medal?
Yeah, where's that medal going to go in my room?
But you've still got one more to go.
Yeah,
and getting ahead of yourself has always been a minor fault of mine.
Really?
Yeah, and it's something that my first coach was the one that told me, talent's not enough. My second main influence was a guy called AD, who was the diving coach in Leeds. And he always had the philosophy of you do it and you park it and you move on, no matter how good or bad it is. So if it's a terrible dive, just like in golf, you take a good or terrible shot, doesn't matter which way it is, it's done. Yeah. If you bring that into the next one, if it's too much energy or too little, because you've either done an amazing dive or a terrible one, it affects the rest of it. So it's when I first got my first ever 10s from the judges in a senior event, I was like looking around, I was like, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And he was like this and that. That's it. You park
come down
it and move it.
Yeah.
Because you've still got afterwards, sure, do what you want, but don't celebrate before you've crossed the finish line. So that's one of my big things that I'm thinking about when I'm on the board. The other thing that for me is really important is controlling my heart.
Right.
It is nervous. You're right. You stand on for me, it's a 3-meter springboard. It's a moving component, which can be difficult to time with your legs, and especially if you've got a bit jelly leg, it can be difficult. And the board is 50 centimeters wide, so it's not like you've got a lot of room for error.
Yeah.
So controlling heart rate is really important. and sticking to routine. You know, doing nothing, trying to almost feel like I'm just in a elevated state of training, not getting too wrapped up in the moment, because it's really easy to do, especially when you're at the Olympic Games and you look over and every single wall's got the Olympic logo branding. You know, I've used to, when I was a kid, I had the support the bid London 2012. I had that all plastered over my windows because that was my dream when I was a kid to get there. So it's always been like a dream to be at the Olympics, let alone get a medal. And then when you look around, then you're like, oh, blimey, there's the rings. That's the Olympics. There's the 5 different broadcasters with all their cameras, and you're thinking, oh Jesus, this is quite a lot.
Talk about controlling your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel it in
Yeah,
your ears.
yeah. It's horrible. It really is. But you just have to deal with it.
You get nervous when you go on the board.
Always, yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost more so now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny that, isn't it? 33 medals later, and you're more nervous.
Yeah. People expect it.
That's
I always
the
say
thing.
that once you're no longer the up and comer, once you're when you're the underdog, it's easy because you're chasing people, and if you beat people, you're the man. But when you become the man and you've got people chasing you, it's really hard to not look down. Yeah, it's really hard to continue looking up, because at that point, all you want to do is, you don't want to lose your spot. It's not that I'm fighting for a spot anymore. I'm not fighting for top anymore. I'm actually fighting to not lose. I'm not fighting to win. I'm fighting to not lose, which is a completely different mindset. And although that it results in the same thing, not losing is the same as winning, technically. But the mindset being completely different, it actually changes how you view yourself. It changes how you train. It changes how your confidence levels, all of those things as you age as well. And things do start getting harder. All that compounds into, it can be quite difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I bet. A pressure.
Yeah, and
Really
everyone
big
expects
pressure.
it. Everyone, even if they don't say it, people, when you step on the board as however many time medalist Jack Laugher, people expect something good.
Yeah,
and if
here we
I'm
go.
just
Let's
not
see
in
a big dive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if I'm not in a mind frame or a physical shape to do that, it feels very alienating. You feel very small all of a sudden, and it's hard to bring that bravado that you need for a sport like diving. You need that bit of confidence in yourself, because it's bloody scary, really. It's not, all sport is scary to an extent. Competition is always scary, but spinning around with the potential of things going quite wrong, you know, there's very few sports like that. So it's daunting.
The risk of injuries.
Risk of injury,
big.
risk of humiliation. Yeah. No, everyone loves a belly flop, but no one likes to be the belly flop.
When was the last time you did a belly flop?
Not for a while. It was in Australia, Gold Coast, 2018, Commonwealth Games. We were diving outdoors, and not to get too technical, when you spin around, you see colours, basically. You see a flash, essentially.
Yeah. Do you have your eyes open?
Yeah, you have your eyes open, and it's called spotting.
Okay.
But usually, the pool's blue and the ceiling is a different colour, but we were outdoors in Australia in, when was it? It was like March, so it was quite nice weather. So the
when
sky was blue, the pool was blue,
Oh,
and
no.
all the pool decoration as well, like all the walkways, all the branding was all blue as well. So you could barely see anything, and you started at the back of the board, you were in the dark because the shadow of the pool, the sun was behind you, but then as soon as had got off the board, you were into bright sunlight. So it was, when you come out of a tunnel and your eyes do that thing, like everything expands in front of you. It was like that, having to do multiple somersaults, and I landed so flat. And I came up and I swore. And the commentator, she was like, "Ooh, we were not used to seeing or hearing that from Jack." I think I had a koala over my face, like a little toy koala, just to bleep out my F word.
Yeah.
But it bloody I tell you that, it hurts your pride as well.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Yeah.
Still, though, I bet your belly flops, it's a good 8 out of 10 compared to most people's belly flop.
Yeah, well, I mean,
A little bit of finesse to it.
In the air, it was great. The end wasn't so great. And that was just in the preliminaries as well. So I got through to the final, and in the final, it was a lot better. But that was my last proper belly flop, I think.
So when you're spinning, you've come off the board and you're spinning round, your eyes are open, and you call it spotting.
Yeah.
And because you're moving so fast,
Yeah.
you're literally like Sonic the Hedgehog at this point, aren't you? Like going round so fast, rotating. You're spotting both the pool and the sky and differentiating between the two to...
Yeah.
landing the right way.
Yeah, it's also a massive amount of body feel as well, like spatial awareness in your body, proprioception, all that kind of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. But a massive part of it is being able to see as well. Yeah, so when you take off, you'll see like the best thing to do is try to take a snapshot of what you see before you go into your shape. So you see very clearly, spin around, and essentially all you see is flashes of colours, really. It's very, very difficult to actually see anything until you have counted the somersaults, you've felt where you are, you come out of the dive, and at that point, that everything becomes clear at that point, hopefully.
Yeah.
If your head position's in the right place.
Yeah.
And that's when then you can make those micro adjustments. But the entire skill is micro adjustments from the start. There is a lot of things that you can do once you've taken off to try and help it.
Yeah, so you're continually adjusting, tweaking as you're in mid-dive.
Yeah, especially on the 3 meter because you're dealing with something bouncy. If you land right on the end perfectly, considered the perfect takeoff, you go miles in the air. But if you're slightly off the end, the board doesn't flex enough and you don't get that ping out of it. So you could be a meter lower. So you're having to do the same skill, but you've got less time. And you might be spinning a bit slower as well. So then you need to know how to do the perfect one, but you also need to know how to do the bad one and the one from the corner of the board, all these different things. So it's really, really technical. But obviously, doing it for 20 years, there are little things that you can do to try and help it. But
you know, when you're waiting to do your dive and you see on TV that you go and have a quick rinse, don't you, in the shower, and you go back to your little area. Is there any like sledging in diving like there is in cricket? Is there bits of banter, or is the people giving each other stick?
Yeah, I mean, no, it's very professional.
Okay,
but in the synchronised, in the pairs, I like to try and keep things a bit lighthearted, and not get too serious and bogged down. I think it's good to keep that little bit of friendly spirit with your synchro partner, but not with the other teams.
Not with the other teams.
Diving's a very respectful sport in that when you're on the board, you're given your space and time. You've not got someone behind you, pulling faces or whatever like that. There's no one trying to put anyone off. It's a very gentlemanly sport, which is nice. And it's literally, it comes down to just ability on the day. There's no mind games. There's no tricks. There's no getting in people's faces. It's you against yourself.
Yes.
And then against everybody else.
Yeah, it feels very much like that, me versus me.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to that last bit, I imagine. And like you say, you're climbing up the ladders onto the board, that battle is big going on in your head.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
Yeah.
You see in other sports, you see when basketballers do a good block or whatever and they get in the other person's face, like that just doesn't exist in diving.
Yeah, it's almost in every sport.
It is.
It feels quite a pure sport from that sense, doesn't it? Like very,
Yeah, I think that sports like gymnastics are similar. High skill sports.
Yes. Very technical.
Very, very technical, high skill ceiling sports. I think that I would like to think that that's how people would be. Just because you understand how hard it is.
Yes, the level of respect is high.
Yeah, I respect myself and what I do, so I respect you as well. It's not just, I'm not going to even name another sport where it's not similar to, but you know what I mean. There are definitely there's some lovely people in diving, and everybody is respectful, so it's a nice place to be.
We were speaking off air, if you like, before we came on about your first TV appearance. You'll have done many over the years, obviously, with
a few,
so many. What were your first TV? Because we were having a little laugh about going on live TV. Was your first one? Was it Look North?
Yeah, Look North. I think I must have been 14 or 15. I think I'd maybe just won the Junior World Championships, and it was after training, and everybody was still training. All my friends were still in the pool, and they had their camera on. It was Tanya Arnold, who I'd never met before, but I've come to become extremely friendly with Tanya. She's a wonderful person, but we still talk about it and still remember this. I was 14, 15, like a rabbit in headlights, long droopy hair over my face, in a bright red Coca-Cola t-shirt, which is meant to be a sportsman and ambassador for my sport.
Perfect for an athlete.
Exactly. And they're covered in sugary drink logos or whatever. Yeah, and actually, do you know what? The interview was actually okay. It wasn't bad.
Was it live?
It was. Was it live? I think it was live. Yeah, I think it was. But I didn't. I just kind of took it on the. Like, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. At that age, though, you're like, whatever. I'm the man.
Yeah.
Got
exactly.
This.
Yeah. But it's like you say, when you start getting older, and you're like, oh, God, I better not make. Yeah, I didn't care about making mistakes because I was like,
yes.
What have I got to lose?
Yes. Well, we were saying before, I went on Look North probably 4 years ago. It was supposed to be Dad. He was on a cruise, so I ended up doing it. But I got there and wasn't really briefed. I think it was Amy. Is it Amy Garcia and Harry Gratian at the time? But 1 minute I was in reception, the next minute I'm on the red sofa, and the cameraman is 10, 9, 8, and I'm like, oh my! Talk about heart rate.
Yeah.
Exploding out the top of my head.
Yeah, but when you're older, you're like, why have I not been told this? Why do I not know what I'm doing in this? But when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever, I'm there. The question is, how do we get back to that?
Exactly, yeah, I've been trying to search for that, so it's so hard, but, times change.
You know, I remember when I was there, I ended up in makeup with Tanya Arnold, which was such a surreal thing. Like, I've not been back to anything like that since, but I'm sat next to it in a makeup room in BBC Studios with Tanya Arnold. Yeah. Getting her makeup done. She's like, oh, you're all right. Yeah. I'm Gav.
I've seen you on TV.
Exactly. But yeah. Right, tell us about your MBE.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
Yeah, that was nuts. That was, again, but that's something that I got it through the post.
Did you?
My mum and dad's house. Got the
that's some letter to receive.
Original letter through the post from my mum and dad's house.
Yeah.
And they said, can we open this? And I was like, yeah, whatever. It's like, yeah, they were like, it's got the Royal Highness.
Because it had the royal like stamp on it.
Yeah, stamp on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, whatever. They were like, do you know what it is? I was like, nah. No, not really. Probably just a letter saying well done or whatever. And it was like, oh yeah, you're going to be receiving an honour. And I think that obviously I am ridiculously proud of that. It's something that I will have next to my name forever. But if we have to be all honest, a massive thing with my parents and grandparents, like they flipped the lid. Like they couldn't believe it. My grandma, bless her, my only grandparent at the time, she's unfortunate with us now. She was in tears.
Really?
Yeah.
Was she the first person that your mum and dad rang, or you rang when?
I don't know. I don't know who it was. We weren't actually allowed to tell anyone. So me and Chris both received. It was any Olympic gold medalist. So we received our MBEs for services to diving. So we were the first ever. I can't actually remember who got it first out of me and Chris. Can't remember.
Come on, surely you.
Yeah,
I mean, for the purposes of this conversation.
Yeah. Let's just say it was me. No, I can't remember who it was, but it was really nice. We had an amazing day at Buckingham Palace. It was Charles that gave us the award, and he was so lovely. I've met him a couple of times now.
Really?
He's a really, really nice man. He really took the time to speak to me. Obviously, he had quite a few people to go through, but that conversation felt very personal, which was lovely.
What did he ask you?
He said that he remembered watching me, and how it affected me with the green pool, because obviously that was the kind of famous thing with me and Chris, was we had a green pool that we were diving into, and that's what people remember as well. So he asked about that, and he said, are you going to be doing the Commonwealth Games and all this stuff. So it was a nice little conversation. You've got to be very formal. You shake the hand. You can't turn your back on royalty, so you've got to walk backwards, and then you do a turn. You walk on.
It's like doing a moonwalk.
It is, honestly, yeah. You walk on, turn left, bow, walk to them, shake the hand, and all the time that you're shaking the hand is the conversation. And when he lets go of your hand, that's conversation over. That's what you're told.
Okay, that's the signal.
He will break it off
Yeah.
when it's done.
Yeah.
And then you bow and you walk backwards, bow again and walk off. But you're not allowed to turn your back.
So sort of moonwalk back to the
audience. Yeah. You've just got to somehow just shimmy back and make sure you don't fall on the stairs.
What an experience, though.
Yeah, what an experience. But also, I was 21 and I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. Just take it all in, not really knowing what was going
nervous?
On. When I was about 5 people before my turn, you're in a queue off. When you're there, you're getting it. You are the only person there. There's no other people. There's all the people that are with their families watching, but there's no other people. So it's a very, very personal thing. But when I was looking over the shoulder of the lady and I could see the person getting theirs at the time, I was like, oh God, it's all a bit much, isn't it? It's all a bit real.
So the nerves hit there.
Yeah. And it was an amazing day, and we had a fantastic time.
How sweaty was your hand?
Oh, so sweaty. I mean, I have sweaty hands all the time anyway, but at this point I feel like super sweaty.
Shaking the king's hand.
Yeah. And I think the good thing is, he'll know that everybody's nervous. I think he probably just expects it and just has to grimace through it and just pretend it's not an absolute swamp hand that he's feeling.
He must have a royal towel or something.
Yeah, I think he must do, honestly, yeah. It was an amazing thing, and, I'll have that medal as well for the rest of my life and that title. And
What a proud moment, like you say, for your family. And
yeah, mum, brother, and dad came to this. We were allowed 3 people. So it's a shame that we weren't allowed 4 because I would have brought my grandma as well. But it was, just for them more than me, really. Like, obviously, I'm extremely proud of it. But they're so proud of their son, grandson, all that kind of stuff. It's knowing that is really nice.
So that was when you were 21, did you say?
I might have turned 22, but so I won the gold and silver when I was 21. That was in Rio. And I think they got the MBE next March.
And how old are you now, Jack?
28.
28. We were saying before, and you referred to, where do you go after winning an Olympic gold medal? I don't think I'd appreciated you were so young as well, at 21.
Yeah.
So by 21, you've not almost, you've reached the peak.
I've achieved my dream, yeah.
You've achieved your dream, you've reached the peak of the sport.
Yeah.
7 years later now, and you talked earlier about a tough period you went through. How did that tough period start for you? Where did it start?
The first time it really kicked in was we had the World Championships in Gwangju in South Korea, and I had won a silver in the synchro with my new synchro partner. My previous synchro partner had retired. I'd won a silver, did a good performance there, and in the semi-final of the individual, I was doing fine. Last dive, which is usually everyone's banker dive, like it's their best one, usually a high degree of difficulty, but a one they're good at. I always finished on a standing one. It was backward 3.5 somersaults, always.
That's your go-to.
It used to be my go-to, yeah.
Yeah.
And I took off, and bearing in mind I'd just done it 2 days earlier in the synchro, and it had gone great, absolutely fantastic. I took off and kicked really, really early and had no idea why. It felt like it was the right time. We're talking about spotting. Yeah. The feel and the sight felt right, but it was wrong. And I landed on my back. Doesn't matter because my first 5 dives were brilliant anyway. Got through. I just put it down to, it's been a long day. We had the preliminaries in the morning. My last dive, I'm tired. Let's just go home, whatever. Get there the next day, and I'm like, phew, I don't know how to do this. Like, I'm a bit scared
now.
Yeah, I'm training for the finals, and I'm scared. And I don't really know. I've had time to think about it and time to reflect. I'm like, I don't really know why that went wrong. Like, it felt right, but it was wrong. Anyway, training's not great, but I get into the final, and my first dive is really good. My second dive is like the back 3.5, but it's forwards, so you jump forwards and spin backwards. And I'm scared of that one as well. But somehow, miraculously, I kick in the right place. And I nail the end, get a massive score. My next couple of dives are unbelievably good. Like, over 100 points in 3 meter diving is crazy. That's like the best of the best. I do 205 plus dives back to back, like near the highest scores 3 meters ever seen. And I'm on for a world record at this point as well. And comes down to my last dive. So I'm on for a world record. I'm 30 points ahead of everybody else for a world championships. I've never won a world championships. And I've got this dive left, which ordinarily I'd be like, yeah, we're all good.
Can't wait to do this dive.
But 24 hours earlier, I'd completely lost it. So I'm standing there on the board thinking, just don't do what you did yesterday. Just kick up. Just do it okay and you win, basically. And I did it again. Same thing. No idea where I was. Almost basically a failed dive on my back. And that was the start of it, because that was everything I'd ever really wanted in diving. Almost becoming a world champion. On the individual as well, which is, by yourself is a mean feat. Beating the Chinese, doing these incredible dives, and I'm finally there, and everyone's thinking he's got this in the bag, and then I absolutely bomb it. I'm that far ahead that even with almost a failed dive, I still finish third. I still get on the medal podium, which almost is even worse because then you've got to go up and get your medal when you were that close to. When you were that close to it.
What? As you're telling that story, I can feel it.
It's horrible.
I can feel it.
It was horrible. And I cried my eyes out, and I was so angry and upset, and it didn't go away. That was the problem. It wasn't an issue that it was just something that pool. There was something that had gone wrong in both my head and my technique that I didn't know. So for the next year, we were building into what was meant to be the 2020 Olympics. That was 2019. We were meant to be building into 2020 Olympics. For the next 6 months or so, up until COVID, I was still having these problems. I had no idea what was going on. And my mental health was absolutely in the toilet because this core part of what I always took for granted was completely wiped out. It's like forgetting to speak. It was that, it's that internal to me that, and it just disappeared. What seemed like overnight, and it seemed to stick as well for a long time, and I had no idea what went wrong. Then COVID happened, which for me, seeing the news of the Olympic Games getting cancelled and moved 1 year, for me was like a weight shifted completely. Just like, thank God.
Yeah.
Because
I don't have to go in this mindset.
Yeah, I'm not ready. And weren't allowed in the pool.
Yeah.
Amazing for me. Not being able to go and do the thing that I currently hate.
Is that where you got to it?
Yeah, I hated it. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do it because I was embarrassing myself every time. I was hurting myself mentally and physically. It was awful. And it was the same for the reverse one as well, the one where you're jumping forward, spinning back. I just didn't know what I was doing. And you're standing there on a board and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing and I've got to do it. But wow. I have no idea how this is going to go. And it's scary because usually you can feel what you're doing. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't see it. It all just felt wrong. And I've got people telling me all these different things and everyone's adding their 2 cents. But I'm the one that's got to stand there and do it.
You know what it sounds like, Jack? It sounds like you're almost, when you get onto the board, you're like a guest in your own body.
Yeah.
It'd be like one of those weird films of me being in your body.
Yeah.
You know, and going onto the platform.
That's what it was, yeah. I had no idea what I was doing anymore. And it was horrible. And it was my job. You know, this is at the end of the day, it's my job. It is my livelihood. This is how I make a living. I decided when I was 17, we went to a World Champs and I'd won the preliminaries, didn't make the final. So I bombed out in the semi-final. And I said to my coach, I'm done with living in Ripon, travelling to Leeds via the bus. You know, because I'd only just turned 17 at this point, whatever. I was like, I'm done with it. I've got, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it.
I'm going all in.
Yeah. And that's when I put all my eggs in one basket, decided I finished school and I moved to Leeds.
What year were you in then?
That was lower sixth.
Lower sixth, and you just quit school?
No, I finished upper sixth.
Yeah.
Finished and then
all
opted,
in.
yeah, because I was like, if I want to go to university, I've got that option later in life, but all my eggs in one basket for diving. So yeah, when it all comes crumbling to the ground, when everything goes wrong, and you don't know why, that's the other thing. That's the problem was, I don't know why this is going wrong. Sometimes in diving, there's like, oh yeah, this went wrong because of this. That wasn't one of them. It was I'm taking off, I'm spinning around, and I've got no effing clue what's going on right now. Wow. So it was scary. And then I have to go and compete. Obviously, like I say, we had COVID, couldn't get in the pool for 5 months. Brilliant, fantastic. Best time of my life, living with the Tolsons. Living with my girlfriend and her family, doing workouts at home. It was great. Didn't have to deal with any of that. Just had to just put it to one side for a while. But then obviously back to reality again. Yeah. Back to the pool when it all opens.
So go on. So you've had that break, which we all had on enforced honours, if you like. Worked out quite well for you in the end for where you were. Spend some time with the family, which I imagine was important, away from diving.
Yeah.
You go back.
Yeah.
What does it look and feel like then when you start getting back on the board? And
it feels okay for the start, actually. Okay. Yeah, in diving, usually when you've been out of the pool for a while, let's say it's just the end of a competition year, you take 3 weeks off to go and have holiday and have a break or whatever, you come back, usually you start with those easy skills again to start building it back up. So that's exactly what we did. Not been in the pool for 5 months. Yeah. We start with some real basics, and the basics are going really well. But eventually, after the months progressed, the skills progressed. So I'm starting to then do those harder dives and it all starts going wrong again.
Did it?
And then we turn, it must have been, it was obviously March when COVID started. It was 5 months out. So August kind of time when we're back in the pool, and we've got 3 competitions the next year. We've got the World Cup, which is the final qualifiers before the Olympic Games in Tokyo. And then right straight after that, we've got the European Championships. And we've got about a month at home, and then we've got the Olympics. In the World Cup, I was just doing synchro. Didn't have to do the scary dive.
Yeah.
Got away with it. Got to the Europeans, had to do it. Was doing the individual. Because,
so it's actually related to this particular dive as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very particular.
So your relationship with this particular dive that used to be your go-to,
Yeah.
and has gone to the complete other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. And got to the European Championships, and it went disastrously wrong again. I think I got 6 points. Bearing in mind when I said 100 points is like the gold standard. Yeah. I got 6. So I got like zeros and ones from the judges.
Wow.
Pretty bad. And bearing in mind again, this is the final competition before the Olympic Games. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I was seeing, so we've got psychologists at the pool that we deal with and work with, and I was getting a lot of help from them to try and deal with this situation, but had a bit of an epiphany, and watched what other people were doing, kind of realized maybe that I don't need to be doing. We changed a lot of techniques to try and do what was textbook, and actually what we were talking about earlier, how do you get back to those days when you used to be not caring? I had changed so many things to try and look the perfect way that I'd lost the things that made me.
You.
Yeah. And the things that, the ways that I did things that made it good, and actually ended up doing the reverse. Trying to get better actually made me almost kind of worse in a way. Obviously, there was a lot of things that I did get better in, but some fine details didn't need to be changed, and kind of had that bit of a epiphany and a click in the final when I was watching some of the people that are doing really well at this dive.
So you're actually in a competition when you have this?
Yeah, I was watching it on the big screen.
When you have this epiphany?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do that. and then
Clouds part.
Yeah, and I came in the next day, and I was doing what we call lead-ups, the easy version. I said to my coach, like, I want to try this. This is something we've been working on changing, and maybe that's the cause of all this issue. Because all this time when I've been trying to fix it, I've been really focusing on doing this one thing.
Yeah.
This
particular adjustment.
Thinking that this was the right thing to do.
Yes.
And I said, well, I didn't used to do it that way. Let's just sack that off.
So I'm going back now to being 14.
Yeah, and trying what I used to do. Yeah, just whack it off. As a terrible phrase, but but just give it a go and just send it. Yeah. So I don't know. I changed that, and that seemed to really help me a lot.
I imagine it freed your mind.
It did, yeah. And the next day, I did the best set of lead-ups I'd done in years.
Wow.
And I went up and did it on 3 meter, absolutely fine. I spoke to my old coach and said, what do you think about this? And he was like, yeah, do it, because it used to work for you. Screw what everyone else is saying.
Go back to being Jack.
Just go, back to being Jack again. And I felt that. And it's such a stupid thing, because it was just this thing that was wrong was causing me to have all these problems, but I couldn't identify it.
Yes.
At the time, it was just, all it was head position. When I'm taking off the board, I talked about, you see that snapshot, I was looking down, and I used to look up, and everyone used to say, don't do that, it's wrong.
But don't look down, that's wrong.
I used to have my head really, really high when I left the board.
You used to look up, yeah.
And everyone said, well, you should be looking there. And we very, very gradually worked on getting it down, and it was probably fine for a long time. And then at some point, just one extra straw, camel's back is broken.
That's amazing. So you always did this particular dive looking up, which was your way. The textbook says, I mean, you're Jack Laugher, you need a textbook.
I don't write the textbook. No, I don't write it, but obviously what we were always looking for was perfection.
Yes, and the textbook says look down.
Yeah.
So you're like, right, okay, I need to start looking down now.
Yeah.
If I want to get perfection.
Yeah.
And it threw you off completely.
And it just, at some point, it was going well for a long time, and just at some point the scales tipped. And then I didn't know, I was already too deep, and I couldn't, it's not like, I've changed one thing and it's instantly gone wrong.
Yeah.
It was good for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was looking better.
Got you.
And then at a certain point it had gone wrong, but I then forgot what it used to be. And then I was searching for something that I didn't know what I was looking for. That was why it was so difficult. It was like finding a needle in a haystack, but you don't even know you're searching for a needle. You're searching for something to try. You're trying all these different things, and nothing's going right.
And going back to what you said earlier about how technical diving is, there's, I mean, is it an exaggeration to say, well, 10s or up to 100 adjustments you can make in flight, on the board, every little body position and movement. So I can imagine when you're like, which bit's going wrong?
Yeah.
How do you
look at it?
How do you identify it when you're tweaking to get perfection?
Yeah.
And when the margins are so slim?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's it's so silly looking back on it that it caused me so many problems, and it still causes me some issues today. I still get nervous about it. I'm still scared that I'm going to go back to that place, and that's probably one of the reasons why I find it so difficult now to be so much. Like, I used to be so confident in everything I did when I stood on that board. I was like, I know I've got this, but it takes a lot for me to get into that place now. It takes a lot of solid training for a long period of time. Like lots and lots of backing up to be able to know that I actually have this. Now it's like I'm trying to convince myself. Before it was like it was intrinsic. It was just there. It's like, yeah, I can do this.
It's almost as if you're building yourself back up to where you were before, weren't you? But I mean, that does make some sense, I suppose, if you've chipped away at yourself almost over a period of time, and then you're finding your way back, aren't you, if you like?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, and it's not a. It's such a when you're young on the path that I took, it was so natural and easy, and then when you're trying to do it, it's not easy anymore. You try to. Everyone always says, if you try to think about breathing, it becomes really difficult. And you're like, well, how do I do that? You're trying to pick out this you've never thought about. How do I breathe?
Yeah.
As soon as you start thinking about it, you're like, hyperventilating. But it's difficult. It's all these things that you take for granted, and then it's nuts. And
what a remarkable story that is of something, like you say, so natural to you for so many years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in some ways it's like a journey back to yourself, isn't it?
It is.
It's a journey back to what we were like as kids. I think it applies to a lot of walks of life, doesn't it, as well?
It does, yeah. And I think that everyone resonates with that, no matter what walk of life they're in.
How do I get back to that?
Yeah.
Who I was.
Yeah.
Before I was socialised and rules and ways of being and what other people expect of me, and in your case, what the textbook, in inverted commas, says I should do.
Yeah.
How do I get back to when I was just diving fun, or when I was just being, or when I was a toddler and I wasn't socialised? Yeah. What was I like?
Yeah.
The freedom.
Very much so, yeah. And I was still, I still had a load of coaches guiding me on that path, and it's not like I was just some misfit who was just doing what he wanted.
No, of course.
I had people that were very much guiding me on a path that was set out from when I was very young. My coach knew that I was going to outgrow my grassroots club in Harrogate, and I was going to be coming to Leeds. I already had a path, and I had all these fantastic people to guide me along the way. But at the same time, there was elements that I had that freedom to do, to be me, to write my own book and not follow the books before me, as it were. I don't know of a metaphor to use really, but I didn't have to follow exactly. I always used to say, I'm not gonna eat brown bread and salad every day. I'm going to do it my way. And it wasn't that I was doing my way by eating 20 chicken nuggets every day. I was still trying to be a good athlete.
Yeah.
But I was like, I know that I can do it in a specific way. And sometimes when people try to mold you into being a very abnormal version of yourself, it can actually cause more harm than good. And don't get me wrong, the people that changed elements of my diving have made massive strides in how good I am. Now I feel as good as I've ever been. I feel better in a lot of areas, but at some you have to let people have creative freedom.
Yes, exactly. And you know yourself better than anyone else.
Yeah.
No one can step inside your shell, can they, and experience what it is to be Jack and what you've always been like. I think you're absolutely right to hold on to some space and freedom outside of the science, the textbook, and everything else that comes with being an elite athlete, just to be free. And like you say, maybe every now and then you want to go for the large chicken nugget meal.
Every now and then. Every day.
Every day.
But you're right. Yeah, that's what everyone's looking for, right? Is just to be able to feel free.
Yes.
And when you're a 19-year-old kid, just moved out from home, live in my own place, doing what I want, doing diving, my dream job at the time.
I'll go to the pool, do some dives.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Look at my friends. All my friends are there.
Yeah.
All my mates are there. I get to do my sport that I'm bloody good at and I love, and I get to go travel the world. I get to make money doing it. I get to show off, and everyone's like, who's this new kid? Everyone's excited by me. Everyone's like, have you seen that Jack Laugher kid? Have you seen what he's doing?
You're on the up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very liberating. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is brilliant. And then all of a sudden it becomes.
And you're like, this is Jack Laugher MBE.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
still remember my first competition. We had a national championships just after we got our MBEs. And the lady who was announcing called us Jack Laugher MBE and Chris Mears MBE. And I was like, oh, bloody hell, wow, that's very real. Yeah. Very, very real. That turning point, that switch in your brain goes.
Yes, it's like you said before, now you're at the top.
Yeah.
The expectation level's gone up, the pressure's gone up. And also going back to that point, I suppose you're always looking for incremental gains, aren't you? But as well, how do I stay at the top?
Yeah.
And I have to find every little tweak here to make sure I stay right at the top.
Yeah.
Which, I suppose in your case, ended up resulting in losing a little bit of yourself along the way.
Yeah, huge amount of myself at points, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Became a very unrecognisable person. If I take a snapshot of what I looked like when I was in my worst place to what I was 2 years before, completely different.
What did a day look like when you were in your worst place? If we're in the fly on, like if
I was still going about my day to day. I was still doing diving. Still, probably wouldn't realise, but internally I was just. I always like to think of it as like Chinese burning my brain, doing it to myself. I was torturing myself, and it was such an awful. I had a very short temper. I was very snappy. I didn't find any joy in diving, being around the pool. But I still had fantastic friends. I've got an unbelievably amazing girlfriend, and my family are all very supportive of me, and I found a lot of solace in them. But it was bloody hard.
Okay. and even with all that support, was there a feeling like you're the one who's still gonna have to fix this?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
you're the one
everyone says, we'll love you no matter what, and I'm sure that's true.
Yeah,
but they'll also think, oh, yeah, what is he doing?
What happened to Jack?
And I've got to be the one that stands there and does it, and that is obviously a lot. It's people have to do a lot in their line of work, but standing in front of potentially, when me and Chris did synchro in the Olympic Games, it was on at peak time on a Friday, 6 p.m. I think it was UK time. I think there was 5.6 million people watching me and Chris. We didn't know that at the time.
Thank God.
And obviously they probably tuned into us because we were doing well and we were looking like we could get a medal or even more a gold medal. But there's very few people that have to do their job in front of millions of people, and it's daunting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's daunting. And like I say, when you've got no confidence in yourself, you need confidence in any line of work. If you're delivering a speech, you're pitching to a new client, you're doing anything, obviously there is pressure on that. And I would never take away from everybody's pressures that they have or anything.
Though. Yeah, I understand.
But
as an elite athlete at that
it's
level.
elevated, yeah, and you have to have confidence.
I imagine you have to have some swagger there.
You have to try, yeah. And when, like you say, when you've lost a part of you, that was a part of me. Because I kind of was like, I've got this. I've still got messy hair now, and I used to be this messy-haired kid who just kind of rocked up and did some wicked diving.
Yeah.
Took a medal and went home.
Yeah. Happy days.
Yeah. But yeah, it can be difficult.
How are you feeling for Paris then? 2024, big year.
Yeah.
Back at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So just based on all that discussion, how you approaching that?
Yeah, it's like I say, it's still difficult to this day. I still do get nervous. And the good thing is that I've had a lot of good results recently. I've qualified in the synchronized event with my partner Anthony. He's up and coming. It's his first Olympic Games. I think he just wants to do as well as he can, bless him, and I want to do as well as I can for him as well. And I really enjoy diving alongside him as well. So really excited for that one. The individual is obviously a little bit more scary, like you said. It's just you on that board. So, it's a big year and there's a lot of competitions. And luckily, I think that I'm in a place now where I can deliver at competitions. And with that, I'll gain that confidence.
Yes.
I've got confidence already.
Yeah.
But I see this year as only a growing year.
Yes. And the more sort of validation you get through
Exactly.
the results and landing the dives and placing.
Yeah.
It
all comes together.
Comes back.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing you want to get back to, isn't it, really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm really excited about this year. I think that I've definitely got it in me to go to another Olympics and try and pick up a medal or two. I still know I've got that in me. It's just about delivering on the day. And I know that I can deliver, especially in the synchro. I know that I can do that. But like I said, it's one thing knowing that you've got it in you, but it's another thing standing there and actually doing it.
Do you feel like, I can feel it, Jack, I can feel like Jack is back. Do you know what I mean? Not that you've gone away, but you're building, aren't you? You can feel the energy as we sat here talking about it, building, and that confidence is building, that swagger.
Yeah.
Is,
I hope so.
Yeah.
In a good way, because now I'm obviously a bit more socially aware as you grow older. I don't want to give off a negative vibe. I don't want to give off a cockiness.
No,
I
of course.
think there's a very fine line, but
Yeah.
there is a difference between confidence and cockiness.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I want to tread that line carefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope so. I really do hope so. And I feel good. I feel great. I feel that although I've gone to the nationals, I came second. I understood why I didn't win, and I can move forward. Whereas you flash back to 2 or 3 years ago when everything was going wrong, I had no idea what was going wrong. And I know what I've got to do to prepare to be better. And that's the place that I'm at now, is that I know I've got it in me. I've just got to do a few things differently that I'll find through the year, through these competitions, to get to my best place. Hopefully. You know, that's what I'm planning. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think having that intrinsic belief that's the first step.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think we should finish on that message. Thanks, Jack. I just thank you for being so honest, vulnerable, brave as a result of the vulnerability, and sharing all that with us. Like, we're all very proud of you. You know that, the family, everyone in the business, everyone, Yorkshire, England, Great Britain, you know that. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing all that. And also, you know, you're an ambassador of the Howarth Foundation, which is our charity to support the homeless back into employment. So thanks so much for doing that.
My pleasure. It always is.
And hopefully that rack on your wall
Hopefully it gets heavier.
Gets heavier.
Need some better screws.
Exactly. Thanks, Jack.